Welcome to Elemental Energy, the podcast where we discuss how to simplify decarbonization. Here, we will introduce emerging low-carbon energy technologies and give you insight on how to navigate and support the evolving energy landscape. It is our goal to develop content to give you confidence to help transition the market and make low-carbon energy reliable and affordable. I'm your host, Marcia Leonard. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today on Elemental Energy. The whole point of Elemental Energy is to help build a bridge from conventional oil and gas into this transforming energy industry. And having come from heavy industry and oil and gas like a couple of years ago, I've been really far removed from the grounds. And I was trying to find somebody who I could connect with that is still heavily involved. And I came across Matthew Hill. He is still very, very much active in the industry, so much so, in fact, that I wouldn't call him like a socialite, I would say, actually, because you have your own podcast called Oilfield Tailgate. And I think that you have just a great understanding of oil and gas, where it is now, all aspects, all sectors. And I wanted to bring Matt in to have a conversation. This isn't necessarily going to be an interview. This is the far right, far left conversation coming into the middle that we need to refine and define, because there shouldn't be that far left or far right. We're all in this together. We're all in the energy industry. And by Matt and I joining hands to really help our audiences better understand what's going on both sides, letting everybody see that this is doable and it's simple. Decarbonization can happen and our processes can change, but we've got to have time involved because we're still going to be heavily reliant on oil and gas for a long time. So Matt, thank you so much for joining me today on Elemental Energy. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
I'm honored. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate any conversation I can bring up with, people that value how much energy, needs to be talked about and how much energy education needs to be spread. The world needs energy. We're all, like you said, we're all in this together to hopefully support human flourishing. And that means we need more and more and more reliable, abundant, affordable energy access. We're fortunate in the United States to, really never even think about it, take it for granted, just how fortunate we are to flip on a switch and everything works, but across the globe, you can see that's not the case. So we all have a responsibility to ourselves and our families to, do that. But then I think a lot of people in the energy industry also, have a really, servant's heart and say, hey, what can we do with, this, family, this team to make sure this carries on regardless of the winds of change, politics. It doesn't matter. All energy forms are valuable, and we can do it together. We can make sure that for generations we will all enjoy hopefully what we have here at home and continue to raise the bar what our future capabilities will become.
So Matt, energy security is what I like to think is one of the ultimate goals. Decarbonizing, yes, but also the energy security aspect. And I was just recently joined by a previous nuclear regulatory commissioner to talk about it.
Watched it. Yeah, parts 1 and 2 and more. Yeah, really good.
Thank you. But one of the comments that even threw me off about him is I asked him, did you know that electricity consumption is supposed to double by 2050? And he was like, wow, that's really low. I thought it would be more. And it just kind of struck me like, I think it would be more as well. Like, I think that we're lowballing that number with the amount of population growth and what we're seeing. and all the electrification movement, it just seems like it would be more to me.
We'll find out, but let's be ready. Yeah, I mean that's the goal, is be ready.
Yeah. So, Matt, I am so curious to hear, what is the overall feeling in the oil and gas sector towards the energy transition space? Like, give me a very candid answer of what people feel about this. Is it like necessary? Is it not necessarily? Is it hocus pocus? Like, I want to hear the candid answer.
Candidly, I think the energy transition label is something we should just get rid of out of our dialect. It's energy addition. I mean, none of us in oil and gas are opposed to any other form of energy. We just feel like it's energy addition, not energy transition. There's no reason to transition off of oil and gas unless another energy becomes available that's more efficient. So right now, because throughout human history, and it's not just me saying this, there's, you know, plenty of people that, have, I stand on the shoulders of giants when I speak on this, but throughout history, human beings have never adopted another energy unless it's been a better energy source, from whale oil till, oil and gas. We keep, the level of what we can do, on purpose so that, we can have time to build the next, energy source. So if we transition out of something that's working for something that's, not yet researched, developed, and proven over and over and over again to be more efficient, reliable, and abundant than oil and gas, then what are we doing to ourselves? And for us, I mean, even if we took, in America, say we, lessened our footprint, the rest of the world's, population is what's going to suffer, the poor, the weak. And that's not right. More, and like Alex Epstein's book, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. I mean, there's just so many people that are impoverished that don't have access. So why don't we get everybody, energy with what we have now? And let's work really hard on, if there's a transition in the future, what will that look like? And have we done everything possible to get there where, okay, well, that now we're all ready, let's move on to the next step. So the next molecule that's going to be more energy efficient than oil and gas is, obviously nuclear, but we haven't had the resources or time or regulatory relaxations to develop, nuclear energy until, maybe recently. The discussions are, in progress, but are we going to need 50 years or 100 years or 1,000 years to get it to where it needs to be? Or even some really neat speakers that I've seen have talked about, the next step is nuclear fission. There's already been experiments to where a tiny molecule of hydrogen has been zapped with lasers, thousands of times. And now for the first time that I've ever heard of, they got more energy out of that experiment than they put in. I mean, that's shocking. And then they're able to reproduce it. So at some point, they're going to be able to reproduce that so fast it becomes an engine and a power plant. So I don't think there's anything that human beings aren't capable of, getting things done. But energy transition seems like it's a maybe a possible goal, but let's just for now call it energy addition. No, and that's just a sentiment, because we want to help, and I think oil and gas is very, very blessed to have some amazing, minds, and this is the entire energy sector. I think we're all very capable of looking toward all these solutions, and we shouldn't be battling out over which is best. We should be battling together to combine our forces and our knowledge and our capabilities to really get to the next step. And we may be missing something in our battles of whose is the best. If wind's battling solar and solar is battling oil and gas, and we're battling nuclear, and they're keeping us all separate. What if we skip over something that we didn't even know might be the best energy out there? So let's focus on collaboration. I think is probably the best bet for all of us. Collaboration.
So that is a really good point, is collaboration, because from my point of view, I like the term energy addition. However, I really have adopted the term energy transformation, because this is a collaboration that needs to happen in regards to decarbonization. And then one thing I want to go back to, talking about the nuclear technology that you were just talking about, that's nuclear fusion. I have such a hard time keeping nuclear fission and nuclear fusion separated. Nuclear fission is the one that's currently ongoing in the United States, commercially produced power. Nuclear fusion is the one that everybody's been saying it's like 30 years out, 30 years out. But what you were just explaining is they're actually generating power, like more power out than more power in. And from my perspective, seeing as I support the nuclear industry, is I'm a firm believer, and I know for a fact that some of these new small modular reactor technologies are going to be in play utility scale, like 300 megawatt power generation by 2030. And that's really exciting to me. And back to the whole point of energy transformation, too, is I want to know, what is the opinion on needing to decarbonize within your opinion or a general consensus in the oil and gas realm? Like, are people recognizing that it is a need, or do they still see it as a bit of a farce?
I'm not sure that everybody agrees on decarbonization as the most, critical priority, or if it even is or needed to be a priority. A lot of it, seems like it's more politically driven or money grab driven, or maybe lacking some of the. I think more and more research needs to be done. I'm not saying that human beings don't have a contribution to our environment, but just how much of that is real versus catastrophized, and then what we should be doing, or if we should be doing anything at all. There's so much to explore and to research. I think we've all been pushed to listen to a narrative that I'm not saying that people are wrong in their beliefs. I'm just saying that I personally am not convinced of a value yet to decarbonize. If it's just us in the United States, are we the only ones that are going to do it anyway? First and foremost, I'm always going to lean toward what can I do for humanity, and that's to make sure they have access to reliable, affordable, abundant energy. So I'm going to lean toward the more human side of need versus what I can do for the planet. Is a sea turtle more valuable than that human being, kind of thing? And so it's gonna be that third priority for me.
So, how do you feel then, or why do you think that these major oil and gas companies like Shell, BP have made pledges to decarbonize their assets and take on more renewables? Like, what do you think's pushing that if it's not climate goals?
It's monetary goals. They're for-profit, entity that have responsible. If you're on the stock exchange, you have a for-profit necessity. They're legally bound to make their shareholder see a pathway toward doing that. I'm not saying it's not and also a goal in their hearts, to do something right. But first and foremost, they're for profit and they're legally bound to be. So if that's an avenue that they need to go down to make their shareholders, best making a profit, that's what they're supposed to do.
So interesting, because a lot of these new energy transition or transformation projects, they're not profitable right now. And that is one of the biggest responsibilities of here in the United States, is finding a way to help some of these technologies become more affordable so we can then spread them out to other parts of the world, because we are very energy rich and very energy abundant. And that's like my opinion on why the majors have adopted a lot of this new energy transformation, is because they do have climate goals. Like, there is a huge push. So I'm going to lay out my beliefs for everybody right now, for your listeners and even my listeners who should know by now. But I am a firm believer in climate change, and I have a degree in molecular biology. My entire capstone project was over bioethanol, biodiesel, and alternative fuel sources to combat just conventional fuel. And what I have learned is that there is so much data out there from different scientists all over the world talking about CO2 emissions, and not just carbon dioxide, but methane, all of it. And they have had studies where they take ice cores and they can measure the CO2 concentrations within these air bubbles that are trapped in ice over millions of years. They look into fossilized plants, like they actually take CO2 concentrations from leaves. And what it has shown is that there is a dramatic uptick, and it's literally related to when the Industrial Revolution occurred and when we started utilizing coal and started emitting CO2. So there is a huge pressure from all of the scientists in the world who have been feeding data to the regulators, to the policies, to the governments, to make sure that we're trying to find ways to decarbonize, because if we don't, we're just going to continue to increase CO2, atmospheric CO2, which is causing a greenhouse effect. And it's actually heating our earth, and it's not going to stop. Like, there are things like tipping points that we're unaware of. Like, even scientists are like, I have no idea what these tipping points are, but there's just so much data, independent data out there from like different scientists around the world saying the same things, that when they came together, it was like almost kind of scary how irrefutable it was. And that's another reason why these large companies like Shell and BP, they're like, okay, there's just too much data out there. And I'm not going to say who did this. I'm not going to say which big company did this, but an easy Google search will figure out that some of them have actually known about this since like the 70s and have been sweeping it under the rug. That CO2, atmospheric CO2 increase from production and process is causing a warming effect. And I have really had a hard time swallowing that as I was going through and being like, okay, well, what is the solution? And this is where that transformation comes back in, because you think about, you've heard of carbon capture, utilization, and storage, right?
It's a $1 trillion industry at this point. So yeah, everybody's very aware of the carbon capture, industry, and how, we as an oil and, gas community can, look at markets out there. I mean, we're going to find ways to be profitable no matter what. And so if you're a service company, if you need us to go drill a geothermal well, or look at hydrogen or carbon capture, and it can be profitable for our shareholders, we're going to look at it. And to speak on the your beliefs, by all means, I think us as an oil and gas industry, and I think in everybody in industry, we want to be good stewards of our resources and appreciate and value, what we've been given, which is the knowledge to go out and harvest those resources. So no matter what, I think we all stand in one place where we know that every bit of waste. So if it's hurting our environment in any way, if there's something to be captured when we work hard, whether it be, methane emissions or, anything that, we go and work toward getting out of the ground, if it's hurting the environment, it's also hurting our, a financial bottom line. So there's, nothing out there we want to waste. I mean, so if we just look at it as an industry, like, hey, if you don't even want to think about the environmental impact of what you do, just think of it as a financial impact. If there's anything that we can do as an industry to ensure that we're doing everything we can to use every molecule that we harvest, and it's going to be, a value somewhere down the line, and we didn't hurt in that way. It's going to help the environment, danger for the environment, and I don't think anybody would disagree. We don't want to burn oil to, be our source of fuel. Natural gas is a way better molecule to utilize for, any kind of power plant. So, as we get more efficient, we'll stop burning oil, and we'll turn oil into products, our plastics, everything that we use for, thriving, human beings in our world today. I mean, unless you're willing to strip naked and walk into the forest and start rubbing sticks together, there's really, there's not a transition available yet to, to get it to where I think their goals are really going to disenfranchise and hurt a lot of people if they push it to where, it's a it's a stop. You can't use this and that. It's like, listen, we're not saying that, your ideals and your goals aren't coming from a place and a good heart. We value our resources too, and financially first. We don't want to waste. We don't want to make any waste. All environmental waste is also economic waste. So if we all start at that platform, we can really, collaborate and come up with the next steps.
Well, first thing, I know from previous conversations that you and I would be just fine if we had to go into the woods and live off of the land. Thankfully, not a lot of people can say that, which is why we've got to figure out how to give everybody their internet and electricity. But two, have you met Patrick McCarthy? Do you know him?
Yeah, I mean, I follow so many people, on whatever you want to call it, sides, or I hate for everybody to pick sides. I think we all, need to have a lot more civil conversations and on every single thing. But I love that about you. That's good. I need people that have differences, opinions, to bring me their opinions and insights and knowledge and studies that I haven't seen. And same, whenever somebody comes to me and says there's all this data out there about climate change, I tell people all the time, like, don't listen to me. You're going to look at me like I'm, coming from an opposite side. Take a philosopher who found, the value in oil and gas and what that means. I hand people that book sometimes. Like, there's so much data and science and studies that I've seen that, it's convinced me that, hey, what we're doing is for human beings, and human beings are flourishing like never before on our planet. Cost of a couple degrees of our climate being warmer, great. I actually like a warmer climate. It's better for humans, no problem. We have more trees growing than ever before, stuff like that. I mean, there's lots and lots of there's so many scientists on both sides, and that's the great thing about science. They're going to keep researching. Every scientist out there is never convinced of their own data. They're just going to keep researching and moving forward and gathering data and bringing us, hey, here's what I found today. What can you guys do with this? Our industry, we've never been able to go out and drill a well faster because we didn't stop and say, hey, here's the fact. Here's how we can drill, and this is the only way to do it. Now we do horizontal wells. Now we do 3 mile horizontal wells. we can stay on one pad, drill multiple wells on one pad, 3 miles faster than ever before. So that's the great thing about being humans. We continue to research and develop. And I mean, it's just amazing how brilliant, we are together as a team solving problems.
The reason I mentioned Patrick, because he is absolutely brilliant when it comes down to the perspective that you were just talking about of keeping money in the lines. Like if you have emissions, you're losing product. That right there, that's dollars floating away for operators. So he was the one who actually introduced me to that perspective, because I was like, wow, that's a really good way for me to help substantiate the reason that there needs to be, emission trackers on platforms to make sure that you're certifying it as clean or emission free product. And it gave me more of like a selling point to help talk to other people who don't believe in the climate change aspect of it. And I was like, well, that's beautiful. You're saving money if you just,
Save money.
Yeah.
Or not even save money, just make money.
And that's the hardest part that we are encountering on the energy transformation side is it's not profitable right now. And it can be, let me rephrase that. It is profitable if it is the very right situation, if all of the cards align, it is profitable, but we are still trying to develop electrolyzer markets for the green hydrogen chain. We are still trying to develop all of the macroeconomics associated with bringing these things to life. And it's hard. Like it's very hard because companies who, if they're not making money off of it, they're not going to want to do it. They're not going to want to perform it. So a lot of these projects are kind of falling once they see the price, they're not achieving FID. So we are having big internal shifts. Like there was a recent climate summit called COP28, and the shift is called like partnering and trusting and trying to help people understand that you're going to have to kind of take a bite of the bullet and maybe not make, your 35% margins or whatever your expectations are off of some of these projects in order to help them come to fruition and help develop those microeconomies that surround them.
I'm really fascinated. I read an article the other day and did a little bit, but there's a new generator out there that can take gas, coming out of a well bore almost completely unscrubbed, as far as I understand it. I mean, they can just take whatever gas is coming up from the well bore and turn it into use it for that power plant. I mean, that's a fascinating generator. I don't know if it has internal scrubbers that get it, to the efficiency, it needs on that molecule. But every time I see a flare, in the field, it just, we all can't stand it because we just know we're here now. We have the capabilities to stop that now. We like, if everybody really wants to see an impact, we just find every flare in oil and gas. There's 1 million wells, currently online U.S. land that we, are producing, oil and gas from. That's a pretty approximate number right this second, but 1 million wells. Now, how many of them have flares or trap gas? And then as soon as we, can get to all of those wells, we can put a generator on that well. And we really need to just take the monopolies back from the power companies and say, hey, look, no matter what, we're going to take this trap gas, we're going to put it into this generator, and regulatory agencies should, force those power companies to put it on the lines and make power grids all over the country that are more reliable. Because if a power plant goes out that serves a city or a community or a state, there's no reason why all those, generators on location aren't still pumping electricity in the lines. But even while they're battling that out, they can put those generators to use at least on that location. Everything out there that runs off electricity could be, powered by that generator. Or, say they, I love energy usage for cryptocurrency harvesting. So if you have a generator and trap gas and they won't let you put that power onto the electric lines to give microgrid a chance, fine, get a hash hut out there, put a bunch of Bitcoin miners in there and start collecting the Bitcoin pieces until you're making that part of your well profitable off of the trap gas. There's no reason why to flare gas at this point.
Okay, here's a good segue really quickly. You have a kiddo, right?
One of them,
You
the
you
smallest one, 4.
okay. There is a series called Tuttle Twins. And it's like if you have Roku, you download Angel Studios, and it's amazing. And we believe in crypto because of just how it's unregulated, how the government cannot regulate it and control it. But I highly suggest getting your kiddo to start watching Tuttle Twins. Like there's an inflation monster episode. Have you heard of the series before I even keep going down this road? You've heard of it?
No, I can't wait. I'll get on this and go down the rabbit hole. Everything we talked about today. I'll About 2 weeks from now, I'll pop myself out of magazines and books and articles and YouTube videos.
Well, Tuttle Twins, that's like the biggest takeaway is because like part of this whole point of elemental energy is to help the next generations see and achieve, even if like climate change is totally a farce. I'd rather be safe than sorry for my 3 little girls because I want them to have the same experience of growing up skiing, growing up camping, growing up, hiking glaciers. And that's just something that like I really, really, come hell or high water, I want to make sure that I establish a safe and sustainable future for my children. And even if I'm wrong and there is no such thing as climate change, I'm doing what I can to help better their future as well as everybody else's. So, okay. We already started talking about, some of the issues or gaps that you see with this transformation or energy addition. What is one thing that you are so proud of to see with this whole transformative movement? What's something you're like, wow, you started mentioning the generators, but what else is something that you're like, that's cool, that's impressive, this is amazing?
I think the gap. I don't know about gaps, but I still feel like a lot of this is a power grab, and I hope that everybody educates themselves on all the possibilities going forward as we do energy addition. That sometimes I see a narrative push because if so, like the plugging and abandoning of wells. I've been using the hashtag, save the wells, a little nudge at, maybe the environmentalists out there that save the wells, but save the wells, WELLS, because I would like to take a team out to every single well that's on this list of plugging and abandoning and go, hey, there's a well bore there. What could we do as an industry to make sure and look at that well bore and hey, just look at some of the times we plug and abandon these wells, the very well, a couple decades down the line, it's not really plugged and abandoned. Go to that well bore and work over all the surface equipment and make sure everything is back online to pristine shape and get the most value out of that well. Do we need to turn that well into a geothermal well? Do we need to turn that well into a storage facility? I mean, we took all these resources. The a lot of the logistics are already in place. We've ran power lines, we've done roads, there's a pad there. I mean, a lot of the costs have already been incurred and are there. We've got the landowner who knows the well. I mean, we could get all the people together and say, hey, we're not going to plug and abandon this, we're going to fix this up. It's going to be the perfect shape for whatever this needs to be, and we have more energy security that way. Because what I worry about is the more wells we plug and abandon, and we get, it might be a mediocre well for a large operator, and they get rid of it because, well, it's I can get carbon credits for this well. And if I get this, well off my books, everything else over here looks way better, environmentally than this, disaster of a well. And I can get rid of this one if I just plug it. But the more wells we plug, and then we're relying on only, new wells in the future that, uh, and it's harder and harder for smaller operators to get permits to drill, and the technology and the people, to get this done, because I mean, again, profitability, a few, people that, have the resources can get into the oil and gas game and go drill some really big wells for big AFEs, and it costs $50 million to drill complete. But if they're the only ones in the future, you see all these companies, the big, the majors coming together, the mergers. This turns out to, and I'm wearing tinfoil hats here, but if they make it to where we're only relying on new drills and there's fewer and fewer wells, and solar and wind and a little bit of electricity is only allowed for your social credits, if you will. Hey, if you don't believe in climate change, Matt, and you post something on Facebook, well, your smart meter just got turned off because you didn't agree with the government. Stuff like that, people think about,
That's
like,
like,
oh my gosh.
woo, you just hit that
Yeah, exactly.
conspiracy level
So
theory.
I mean, it's just, but that's, that's out there kind of thoughts, but like, but, guys in my industry, we can go out and in the middle of nowhere, drill a well bore for resources. And I can build a community around that has no need for, government regulation. I can bring oil and gas to the surface. So I have my own power. I can bring my own water to the surface. And I mean, I can generate my own, like you said, I can generate my own Bitcoin off of that well as well. So now I have water, I have power plants, and I have, money to exchange, and I don't need a government. So that's a lot of power that no one else has. Energy security and energy liberty, whereas the rest of that's out has us as an industry relying on, if we're valued, that day, or, for our beliefs and whatever the society's pushing toward that, at that particular time.
That could be a whole nother episode right there. But I want to
There's a
ask.
lot of, yeah, there's a lot of onion layers to peel back on energy always. But it's fascinating to me. I never get tired of these discussions, right or for information and opinions, just to go explore and see. I love seeing what makes people tick. I mean, I think that's why we are both driven into doing these podcasts, is because everyone we meet is just absolutely fascinating, whether we agree with them or not at that time. It's like, well, I value what you believe, and I want to explore it, and I'm not going to knock anybody for their beliefs. I just want to, I want to see, what that means.
So before I talk about gold hydrogen, I want to know what you know about geothermal, because I am all about reutilization of current infrastructure. Like there's a huge push right now talking about integration of nuclear offshore in order to increase oil production, because what ends up happening out there is there's a lot left in reserves and reservoirs because they don't have enough power to push it all out. So I am all about resource reutilization. And I'm super interested about geothermal. I've been wanting to bring somebody on from Ever Technologies, but let me know what you know about geothermal.
Not enough. I mean, I've just scratched the surface of it, but it's a very, I hope that more and more of us as industry, energy leaders, go find out more, because again, one of the things that I worry about is that any well bore that could possibly looked at as a place to put, geothermal into, the equation, instead of plugging in and abandoning a well. If it just takes us going to replace a liner and get equipment downhole that's capturing, that heat and turning it into a value for someone, why wouldn't we? Again, every bit of energy stored within the earth is at our fingertips if we just, work together to, bring it to the surface, especially if there's already, like I said, there's already been things done. We have the pad there, the roads there, the electric lines run there. I mean, it seems, to me like, well, why would we let that value, just become dust in the wind whenever we could have turned that into something valuable? I don't care if it's just enough energy to run a few farms around there, milk some cows, turn to cheese, whatever it takes. Put whatever the value is. To me, it's better than just, closing it up and saying, well, sorry about that loss. See you later.
With as independent as you are, I'm surprised you don't have solar panels on your roof.
Who says I don't? There's solar panels are great. I mean, they power a lot of really cool stuff. I like solar panels. I don't know if I'm going to rely on just solar panels to power my own home ever in the future, or a solar car. But yeah, every bit of energy out there that we've created as a human race has its value and its place right now. If that solar panel can power everything that I want to use and be reliable, that'll be my energy choice.
Okay,
I just want it to be I just want it to be a choice. I don't like the government ever picking winners and losers.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes left. I did want to introduce gold hydrogen really quickly because I think
Please,
it's
yeah, I need to go find out more about it.
Okay, how cool is this? You take this microbiome, think of it as like a giant yogurt or like a vitamin, and you pour it down in a well that still has remaining product, and it goes in, and the bacteria proliferates and eats the oil and produces hydrogen gas. Like, that's like sci-fi stuff to me, and it's so intriguing, like the whole molecular biology, microbiology that's transforming some of these industries. Like they're even looking at bacteria for mining, like lithium, like removal of lithium from soils. And there's a company called Cemvita, Cemvita. I have one on gold hydrogen. If you want to get really into it, the CEO came in and discussed gold hydrogen with me. And another portion of gold hydrogen is that's kind of like scientifically engineered gold hydrogen. We're still trying to define hydrogen, and colors are a big, like where it's derived from is you put a color in front of the molecule. So gold hydrogen has another meaning where it's naturally derived. So what ended up happening is there was a bunch of helium deposits. And one of my friends, Paul Roden, was actually one of the guys who helped say, hey, have you thought about hydrogen in relation to helium? Because the molecules kind of like to stick together. And they're finding natural deposits of hydrogen right now. And they're calling it gold hydrogen as well. But I digress. I thought it was just really cool to think about how there are other people out there who are trying to reutilize that existing well infrastructure and come up with really cool alternatives for this energy addition that you like to call it. So
I'm so excited. Yeah, yes. Anything you find ever. And of course, I'm going to keep following you because, I always do deep dives on my friends and podcasts because I know they're searching like me, and just very much appreciate how hard you're working to learn everything about energy. And I am too. And that's what it takes. We're passionate about energy and passionate about energy education, and hopefully adding value to, all of our collective human flourishing.
the term that you utilize that I like to utilize as well is having a servant's heart, because what I have recognized is that the more that I do for others, the more I am rewarded and the more I am elevated by helping others. And it makes me so happy to be able to share this education because it was really daunting for me. That's why I like to keep elemental energy at like a 101 level. And then people can choose to go and deep dive on all these different subjects and topics. But I don't want this to seem like a daunting task, because it's happening, whether some people like it or not. Like, this is happening, this huge shift. I call it the green industrial revolution that we're currently seeing. So,
Call
Matt,
it
I cannot thank you enough.
something else.
I know you want to say something else, don't you?
I mean, yeah. See, again, I love this. I love the banter. Yeah, because I'll probably never call it green energy. I'll call it earth energy. I think whoever, I always want to kiss the feet of the marketing guy who came up with green energy. I was like, man, that's a good one. Like, I'm just going to call oil and gas earth energy. You know, fossil fuels was they coined fossil fuels just to make it seem more rare than it really is, so that, you know, people would see it as a value worth spending more money on than they needed to at the time.
Black gold,
Black
everyone.
gold, right? Yeah, all these marketing guys are always really, they're better at me. I don't, you know, it takes you a while to go, why'd they call that green energy? Oh yeah, it'll grab people's heartstrings. Got it.
Oh, Matt, I can't wait to keep in touch with you and look forward to
Please do.
seeing how we both grow. I was laughing because I was thinking about like your audience, like when you share this, like they're probably long haul and they're like heading out to Midland. They're going out to see the flares with the big wind turbines behind them, which makes me laugh so much, by the way. And like hopefully listening to this on a long truck, because like they're going out to visit customers, they're going out to see infrastructure. And I was like, it's a diesel F350, and I love it. That's like my best thing. Is like everybody's like, "Oh, you drive an electric car," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna go get in my Jetta. It's a diesel, and it makes like 50 miles to the gallon still, and go pick up my kids. Like, that's what life is
Smart.
about."
That's a smart car right there. I like it. And it's a German car. I mean, I when I was exchanging in Germany, the Volkswagens were great cars. I've loved them ever since.
They smell like crayons to me every time I step in a Volkswagen.
Melted crayons. You're a good mom.
You know though, like if you step
I
into a
know.
Volkswagen, it's
I know
something in
all
this.
this. Yeah, I know all the kids and all the smells and everything. Yeah, yeah. There's nothing I haven't seen in my car melt.
Okay, everybody listening, stay safe, but most importantly, stay
Safety third.
happy. What did you just say? Safety third? No, safety first. Safety first. And stay happy. Stay happy. Matt and I think that's one reason why we vibe so much, is like when we get old, we're going to have the weird wrinkly lines around our eyes from smiling and laughing too much.
I'm getting both. There's no way.
Did you just say you're getting Botox?
I'm gonna get I'm totally gonna get the plastic face, man. I have to edit my videos and listen to this voice. It's bad enough. I have the face for none of this. So yes, I'll have the plastic face for sure.
Face for radio. Good. I was going to say, good thing this is a podcast, but there's a YouTube channel as well.
Oh yeah, this is going on video. All our friends will see it. It'll be fine. I get made fun of daily, and that's what I live for, really. All my best jokes are from other people that have made fun of me, and I steal them so fast that I can use them at parties before anybody else says it.
That's the best way, man. Make fun of
The
yourself.
best one I have right now is, you know, Matt, you look like Shrek and Powder had a baby. It's good, right?
That's that's literally going to make everybody go back to the YouTube channel if they were listening to the podcast. So thank you. Appreciate your marketing
You're
genius
welcome.
right there. All right, Matt. It's been an absolute
Take
pleasure.
care. God bless you. Have a
Yeah.
great day.
Okay. Bye, Matt.
Bye.
I absolutely loved that conversation with Matt, because it really helps me even ground myself further to know different perspectives and to see what's still going on in the realm of oil and gas. And I just am so grateful that people are open to this idea of energy transformation. Once we get the technology right, once we get a molecule that performs better, like people will be open to it. And that's the beauty. If we can do something smarter and if we could do something better, that is what we should all adopt. I mean, like, let's face it, we've come a long way from coal-fired to now nuclear. So the future is so, so bright. I appreciate you all for listening today. And as always, if you have any questions or if you have any topics that you want me to cover, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Marcia Leonard, Marcia Leonard. So take care. Thank you.